Welcome back to K-Chat with me, your host, Kayla Morales. We chat all things from love to business, life, spirituality, health and wellness, and everything in between. And this is a space, this is a space of meaningful growth and connection. And I'm so excited to be with you all today. I'm hopping on to do an intro, which I've never done, so happy first intro, to say that this episode is fire and you guys are gonna need a pen and paper because it's so rich with information and so valuable. So yeah, that's why I decided to make an intro for this one. Yeah, you need a pen and paper. So I'm chatting with Lina Bardovi on this episode, and she is an acupuncturist and she has studied Chinese medicine. So she really goes into depth with like the fundamentals of Chinese medicine and how acupuncture works, and really how our body is like this just special like creation that is all interconnected, and really everything is just working in compatibility with the other thing and in balance with everything. So she really talks about how we can keep our body in balance, and yeah, it's a great episode, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. I have watched it twice already. I'll probably watch it like 4 times. I'm so into this, and just so excited she wanted to even chat and do this. So yeah, that's it for my intro. That's all I wanted to say. Get your pen and paper ready and get cozy, and yeah, enjoy this episode. And if you do enjoy it, which you will, share it with a friend. Like, comment, rate, review, do all the things, help me out. And let me know your thoughts. Like, let me know if we should have Lina back on. I think we should have Lina back on. But, let me know if there's more you want to know, if there's any questions you have on Chinese medicine. And also be sure to follow Lina Bardovi on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is resonant.healing. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'll put it in the notes for sure, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head that's her Instagram handle, which is also, her Instagram is full of valuable information to really help you feel optimized and feel at your best. Like, why would you not be into that, right? So yeah, enjoy this episode, and thank you so much for listening. Bye. Thanks again for being here.
It's a pleasure. I'm like very honored to be here. It's really exciting for me.
Great. Yes. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. I'd love to start with how you were introduced with acupuncture and alternative medicine. Like, yeah, where did it start?
Yeah, I know. It's like, how does one find this path? So for me, I guess I was first introduced to it as a young kid. My mom's a psychotherapist and has always really been into like the natural healing space. And when I was really little, I had this weird skin condition called vitiligo, which is basically just a lack of pigment in your skin. So it just was like white splotches of skin. And she was like, I wonder if my acupuncturist and herbalist could help with this. And so I think I was like 7. And we went to her herbalist, and he prescribed me these herbs that tasted horrible.
What form was it? Like capsules or like a...
It was in a powder.
Okay.
So he was like, oh, just mix it with warm water and drink it. And we both, like, we went to the car, we put it in some water, the two of us, and we drank it. And we both were like, oh my God, this is disgusting. So we ended up putting them in capsules ourselves.
Okay.
So that I could stomach it. But yeah, that combined with a diet he gave me, basically just eliminating like sugar, wheat, and dairy, which was kind of hard as a 7-year-old.
Yeah, it's like everything, right? Like mac and cheese, grilled cheese, like...
And like going to birthday parties, it's just like...
Yeah, true. Pizza,
Yeah, pizza. But I did it. I was really determined, and I did it. And after like a couple months, it was totally gone. And I had gone to dermatologists prior, and they were like, "Oh, there's nothing we can do for that." And yeah, it cleared up within a few months. So that was my first experience with the world of Chinese medicine. And I didn't really think anything of it until fast forward like way later in life, in my mid 20s. My partner at the time, who I had been with for, I don't know, like 7 years at that point, got diagnosed with brain cancer.
Wow.
And so that was, yeah, my whole world sort of got turned upside down, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting timing actually, because we had just both been like, you know what, we don't love our jobs, we don't love what we're doing. Let's quit everything, get rid of our apartment, and go buy a van and live in a van and travel for
Yes.
8 months.
Yeah.
So we had done that, and we had been planning that for a while, and we pulled the trigger, and had been on the road for 3 months, and we were planning to do at least 8 months. And then in the middle of a national forest in Mississippi at midnight, I woke up and he was having a seizure. And so, everything sort of changed for us from that point on. And we flew back home. He went to doctors, he had brain surgery, and went on chemo and radiation, did the whole 9 yards. And as part of his treatment, I don't know who suggested, it might have been me, or I don't know, someone in our world suggested acupuncture. Oh, I remember what it was. He had broken a few vertebrae in his back in one of his seizures, and the doctor was like, there's nothing we can really do for that. It'll heal on its own. But he had been in a lot of pain, and so he went to go see an acupuncturist. And within the first treatment, his back was like significantly better. And
Wow.
so yeah, so he became really interested in it. I became really interested in it, and he sought Eastern treatment while he was doing all of his other Western treatment. And it was really incredible to watch the doctors' faces when he would go in. They're like, I don't know how your blood counts are like this. I don't know how you're, you know, tolerating food on this crazy chemo we're giving you. They were like, what are you doing?
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, and it was all really, he attributed it, and I do too, to what he was doing with the supportive care of acupuncture and herbal medicine. And
What
so
was
that's
he
how,
doing? Do you remember? Like,
yeah, well, so he was going twice a week for acupuncture, and it was like his favorite part of the week.
hmm.
And then he was also taking herbs. So his acupuncturist had him on a custom blend of herbs, and the herbs would change based on how he was feeling. So, one week he would go in and he's like, "Oh, I'm super nauseous." And then the acupuncturist would add in some herbs for that. And then the next week it's like, "Oh, we want to work on boosting your white blood cell count." And so it was really cool to see like, oh wow, you can really get like really unique and customized with the care that you're providing people when you have this knowledge of how herbs work, and how, the needles can impact energy in your body and all of that kind of stuff. um
Yeah. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. It's like
so
so fascinating.
it was so fascinating, and it was to me like, okay, I had said to the universe like, okay, I don't know what I want to do with my life right now. What I'm doing is not great. And I know there's something better for me out there. Like, show me what it is. And it came, in the not great package.
Yeah.
But it did come. And I'm so like forever grateful for that, because it really, that was the thing that showed me Chinese medicine and acupuncture. And I started school immediately, like right after, or like during his treatment when he was going to his acupuncturist. So I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so not only did it show me the world of acupuncture, but it also was such a great support to have the schooling going on while he was going through this journey, because it was such an anchor for me, uh,
Yeah.
learning about health, learning about the body, um, and feeling empowered to take control of my
Yeah.
disease state. Um, and it gave me the wonderful gift of this awesome career that I get to have now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it must be very empowering to be to be in that situation and then to put yourself in a position where you're just like really well informed and can
Totally.
also help the process and help his healing. Yeah, that's really powerful. That must have been great for you.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not in the best of circumstances, but yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask, so in between the time from like 7 to 20, was your mom into herbs and stuff, like acupuncturist, and like was she really into it, or was it kind of something you guys tried around that time period just for the skin, just for your skin, and then
Yeah, so she maintained like seeing that herbalist, I think on and off, mostly on, but on and off like as things came up for her. Um yeah, I mean she still sees him to this day and I've seen
wow,
him like in recent years too. He's really incredible.
that's cool
But
to hear. It's cool to hear that it started off so like it just was like in your life from like kind of
oh
day one, you know, seven's
yeah.
really young. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really young. And it was like, for me, for her, she sort of like continued with it. But for me, it was just that one experience.
Okay.
And then, yeah, not really again until in my early 20s, I like went back to him because I was experiencing some like hormonal stuff. And so he really helped with that. Um, but what's also interesting is that my mom, she was told that she could never get pregnant.
Mm.
And she actually was like, all right, I don't know if I believe that. We'll
Yeah.
see. Maybe, but maybe not. And so she went to acupuncture for fertility and then got pregnant with me. So it's like
Wow.
occurred even prior to my existence in the world. Um,
Yeah.
little
Wow.
thread.
That's really cool to think about. So I want to talk about well, I want to also talk about hormones if we can get into
Mhm.
like how it can heal like hormonally too, which I'm sure we'll get there. I just get a little
Totally.
excited. But I
Yeah.
want to describe how acupuncture um, and cupping benefit the mind and body.
Yeah.
And kind of,
Totally.
yeah, how they work too energetically. Like
Yeah.
just break it down.
Oh my gosh. I could talk about this for like hours.
Perfect, perfect.
Um, Yeah, so where to start? So acupuncture and cupping are basically two of the modalities that are encompassed by traditional Chinese medicine. So the umbrella is traditional Chinese medicine. We call it TCM for short. But you can kind of think of TCM like in the same framework almost that you think of Western medicine, because so many people are, obviously very familiar with Western medicine. And so when you think about Western medicine, what is it like? You know, doctors go to school for a really long time to learn about how the body works, what happens in various pathologies, how to treat those pathologies, and how to diagnose them. And then their main tools are surgery and pharmaceuticals, or a combination of the two. So for traditional Chinese medicine and other, ancient medical systems like Ayurveda and a bunch of others, you can think of it as sort of the same way. So traditional Chinese medicine, we as acupuncturists go to school. It's 4 years to get your master and then 2 years to get your doctorate if you want to do that. And what you learn in those years is an understanding of how the body works from both an Eastern point of view and a Western. We learn a lot of Western. Um,
Nice.
yeah, which is great because
You
then
get
you can
both. Yeah.
you get both and you get this really integrative approach. And it's really, I mean, also like Western medicine is awesome. Like biology is crazy. And so like learning about cells and, just how life works from a science point of view is fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's equally fascinating in the Eastern perspective of how the body works. So, so basically, acupuncture, cupping, herbal medicine, tuina, gua sha.
What's
Uh,
Trina?
tuina is sort of like a medical massage almost, or like chiropractic work.
Oh, okay.
It's the equivalent of like the Chinese version of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like body work basically.
So how is that spelled?
It's Tui, and then the next word is Na. Tui na.
Twina. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of modalities within Chinese medicine that
Hmm.
people aren't really familiar with. It's like acupuncture and herbs and cupping are probably like the biggest ones.
Yeah.
There are a lot.
Yeah, I guess gua sha is getting really popular now too.
Yeah, gua sha is
Hmm.
getting popular. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so basically, like you can look at acupuncture and herbs as surgery and pharmaceuticals, but just
yeah.
a version of
Yeah,
that.
I've never looked at it like that, but yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, did you have another question?
No, 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 sorry.
Um, yeah, so once you can kind of visualize that framework of like, all right, acupuncture, cupping, herbs, they're all tools within the toolkit of Chinese medicine. Um, to really understand like how acupuncture works, you kind of have to know a little bit of the foundations of the principles of Chinese medicine,
Hmm.
because it is such a different way of viewing the body than we're used to in the Western world.
Hmm.
I can sort of go into those if you
Yeah,
want.
I kind of want to talk about it just like so you were talking about knowing certain like just like the movement of energy and stuff like that within the body. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to kind of like get into that.
Okay. Totally. Let's do
I would love to
it.
know for myself. Like,
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. So,
yeah.
okay. So basically, there are a lot of like fundamental principles of Chinese medicine, but I think a great way to start is just kind of putting yourself in the mind of like an ancient Chinese person thousands of years ago when this was the predominant, medical practice was
Hmm.
Chinese medicine. So, what these like very wise people understood was we as humans are a part of our natural environment. And so, the laws that nature abides by, which, is basically just like physics, um, we as humans also abide by those rules. So, whatever is happening out there in the world, whether it be, climate, wind, whatever, rain, like all of these things, they're all also happening within us.
Hmm.
And so all of the Chinese like medical terms are understood through these sort of like environmental factors. So we think about disease in terms of wind, cold, heat, dryness, dampness,
Hmm.
those types of things.
Hmm.
And we look at the organ systems in terms of like natural elements. So, like wood, fire, earth, water, metal. Um, those manifestations out in the world on earth, we have those equivalent manifestations inside of us, and those are the organ systems.
Okay. Which
That
organ
makes
systems
sense.
are like which?
Okay.
I think it makes sense.
Okay. So basically, okay, and so then, and also like the way that they interact in the world is also the way that they interact with each other in our body. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I'll give you an example and maybe it'll be a little bit more clear.
Okay.
So, liver is the wood element.
Hmm.
And also all of these elements basically correspond to one another um, in terms of like climate. So wind, cold, damp, those ones that I
Yeah.
sort of already said. So those have a matching element, which have a matching organ, which have a matching taste, sound, color. Like they're all sort of
Connected.
manifestations of each other. Yeah, they're all
Hmm.
connected.
Okay.
So liver is wood, um, heart is fire, earth is your digestive system, metal is your lungs, and kidneys are water. So
I was gonna say why. Like why yeah, just why. Why
yeah,
are they
so
those things?
why? Totally. So sort of going back to the idea of like what happens in nature also happens in us. So what they observed is like, okay, I guess like think about um, springtime. Springtime is wood. It's liver. So we're heading into spring right now in the northern hemisphere. And what are the qualities of spring? So spring is like things are
Like
opening
blooming.
up,
Yeah.
blooming, exactly, like sprouting, expressing yourself outward. It's all about this like expansive energy. Um, and for whatever reason, they came to realize through observation over thousands of years,
Mm.
okay, those qualities actually match a lot of what we think the liver's biological functions are. So
Oh,
the liver functions in Chinese medicine have some overlap with the Western, but they can be very different. So in Chinese medicine, the liver is really involved with the free flow of qi throughout the body. So if your liver's out of whack, your whole qi mechanism of your body is going to be out of whack. And
wow.
the liver is really prone to getting like stuck or stagnant. Like think about that little sprout in springtime, just like bursting through the earth. If it can't like push up through that and it gets stuck, then it starts to get like expand outward, and it's like all it can't open up into the world.
Yeah.
And so what that equivalent is in our body is our liver not being able to have that free flow of chi, that expression outward, and so it starts to overact on the earth element, so
Which is
which is
the
your digestive system.
of the digestive
Yeah,
system.
so basically, like IBS is a classic wood earth imbalance. It's
Mm.
like stress. So, stress is a liver thing. Stress, anger, irritability, those are all like livery symptoms.
Mm.
Signs that your liver is not expressing itself freely. And so, you can think of like a potted plant, right? So, you have soil, you have a plant in this pot. Think of like a terracotta pot.
Mm.
And when the plant gets like really big or confined and it's too big for that pot, it starts to its root system will spread outward and it'll crack that pot.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like the image you can think of when you
Of
think of like a stagnant liver, a liver that's not moving properly, starting to like overact on your earth element, which is your digestion. So it's like, people who get stressed and like can't eat or get stressed and have digestive symptoms. Is sort of
okay.
like what you can start to think about, like, does that sort of
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense actually. Which I didn't think it was gonna make perfect sense in a while. But that's really interesting that they could observe that. Like,
Right?
um, I'm just curious, like, what could happen with the heart that how would like
Yeah.
an imbalance with the fire, I guess,
Hmm.
manifest in
Totally. So, okay, so when we think about fire, we think about the qualities of fire is it flows upward, right? It has this flaring upward. It moves very quickly. Um, it's hot, obviously. And so in the body, what fire sort of looks like is um, it can look like insomnia, or
mm,
like basically anything that's going on from like the head above, like because fire goes up.
yeah,
So you can think of like red eyes, dry mouth, again like trouble sleeping because like that overactive mind type thing.
yeah.
In extreme cases, it's mania. It's just that like manic energy.
Mhm.
Um, and so heart imbalances, typically like insomnia is almost always a heart imbalance.
How
Um,
would you heal that?
so so this is
Sorry.
no, not at all. No, it's a great question. And
Okay.
it's like this is where it gets like a little tricky to explain because there's just like so much foundational knowledge that you have to know. But
Yeah,
um
I'll try to follow.
yeah, try and follow and tell me if it just like doesn't make sense at
I
all.
will.
But so okay, so think about fire, right? In the world or in the environment. What do you do when like fire gets too out of control or if it's too hot? Like if it's too hot in your room, you open a window, you try and vent out the heat, right?
Mhm.
Or if you're sitting by a fire and it's getting too big, you can pour some water on it. So same thing within the body. That's what we want to do. So we want to either vent the heat outwards, and there are specific points on the body, acupuncture points that are great for venting heat out. Or we can start to nourish that water element a little bit more, which will help keep the fire in balance. So
Oh,
yeah, so that's where we would want to like kind of look to the kidneys a little bit and say, all right, kidneys, like let's boost you up a bit, and there are points to do that,
wow.
and herbs, yeah, and so that because the kidney heart relationship is very interconnected and very interesting. So, so yeah, so that's how sort of like the five elements work together. So you can start to understand like, oh yeah, maybe you have insomnia and maybe it is a heart issue, but maybe the root is actually a kidney thing because maybe your kidneys aren't producing enough water. Or maybe it is a true heart thing. Maybe the kidneys are totally fine, but the heart has just gotten a little bit out of control. So that's where it gets into like a really interesting, um, we become sort of like detectives as acupuncturists. We ask
Yeah.
a bajillion questions
Yeah.
because we're starting to like put together a puzzle piece in our head of like, all right, what's going on within your specific body? Like, what are your specific imbalances? Why do you have insomnia? Is it because of the heart or is it because of the kidney? Or actually, is it because of the wood element? Like, is it your liver just not nourishing your heart? It's like
Yeah.
it's this whole piece of detective work. And we learn what your imbalance is based on the answers to our questions. So, like your signs and your symptoms, we feel your pulse, we look at your tongue. We have all of these diagnostic protocols in place to get an understanding of why you're experiencing what you're experiencing.
Wow, this makes me appreciate my acupuncturist way more because
Yeah.
I guess I just hadn't thought like it sounds silly now, but I just didn't think about how like customized it really is.
Oh my gosh, that's like the core of it is like it's so this is where it's like the complete opposite of Western medicine.
Hmm.
Because Western medicine's like, all right, you got insomnia, take Ambien or whatever it is,
Hmm.
like, whereas with Chinese medicine, you could have insomnia because of literally like 100 different reasons.
Yeah.
And there's going to be 100 different treatment protocols for each one of those reasons.
That's really cool. I kind of the visual I got when you were explaining that is like the body and a bunch of knobs. So you could just like turn this knob and like it's kind of like cooking in a way where you're like
Yeah,
experimenting with all these things. But
totally.
you really explained that really well. Thank you. I
Oh,
feel
good.
like
Okay. I'm
yeah,
glad
that
that.
was like a really rich explanation. I guess I'd want to ask you because I saw you post something recently and and you had mentioned kind of the like the cold aspect of it and basically you were drinking like a cold drink and you're like, oh, this goes against
Oh, yes.
this. Yeah, I want you to explain that. Like, because
Yeah,
now that I know about like the different seasons in the body and stuff like that, that ties into that. Yeah.
totally.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So I guess we'll start with your digestive system because this is really why your acupuncturist and any acupuncturist you ask will, and any little, like Chinese lady will say, like, don't drink cold things, don't eat cold things, don't eat raw things. Everything should be lightly cooked. Drink warm water, at least room temp, never cold.
Hmm.
Always keep your like feet and hands and head warm. And it's like
Yeah.
all of these like grandmother things. But it's because you can think of your digestive system, so the earth element, as sort of like a fire, and a pot, like a pot over the stove or a pot over fire.
Okay.
And so your digestive system needs warmth. It needs that like digestive fire, which in Western terms is your metabolism,
Hmm.
um, to break down the food that you're eating and make it so that it's in a form that your body can assimilate and then use and then distribute throughout your body to the various organ systems for energy.
Mm.
So what happens when we eat cold things, and cold can mean temperature cold, or it can mean like property cold.
Yeah.
So each food, each herb has like a temperature property associated with it. Um, so the best way, like the best example is cinnamon and mint, right? Like mint's
Yeah.
really cooling, cinnamon's very warming.
Warm, yeah.
Yeah, so everything has a property, a temperature property like that. So what happens when you eat or drink cold things, like ice water, like iced coffee, like um, salads are cold in Chinese medicine because they're raw. So
Mm,
raw things are a lot harder for your body to break down. You can think of your stove as sort of like your first mouth, right? Like when you
mhm,
cook a vegetable lightly, it already is sort of it's become digested a little bit. So
mhm,
your body doesn't have to work as hard to get the nutrients it needs from that thing. So um so lightly cooking vegetables makes them easier on your digestive fire. So when you're putting a ton of cold things in your body, you're basically like putting out your digestive fire. And
definitely.
that can manifest in things like sluggishness or tired, fatigue, like anything that makes your body work harder to get the nutrients that it needs is putting out your
Energy being
digestive.
spent.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Okay. Well, that was cool. Okay. So when you're placing acupuncture or pins in certain areas, it's based on like all the things you just mentioned, but also the energy of those things.
Yeah. Okay. So we determine where we place acupuncture needles based on a channel system. So acupuncture points are on channel systems, and in the classical texts, they were actually called rivers. Um, and so you can actually really think about these channels on your body as little rivers.
Mm,
And what happens in a river when a log falls into it, right? That's like an obstruction, and now the free flow of water has been compromised, and it has
mm,
to either like the river has to grow a little bit wider in that area so that it can get around, or there's like backflow, counterflow. So the water in that analogy is your chi, your energy, and your blood, and it's flowing through these channels, these rivers in your body. And each channel system is related to an organ. So there's the liver channel, the heart channel, the gallbladder channel, the kidney channel. And those channels have a direct connection to that organ, like a literal physical connection to that organ.
mm.
So, so we can start to influence and nudge those organ systems by using various points along those channels. And each point along the channel has a different function and a different property. So the the like 5 points on each channel that are from either the elbows to the fingertips or the knees to the toes um, are some of the most influential points in order or that you can use in order to influence the organ systems. And you can sort of like think about that in terms of like a seesaw. So the points that are farthest away from the organ, like on a seesaw, you have much more leverage if you're at the very end of each end, right? Than if you're at the middle,
Yeah.
right? So you can think about those points in that analogy. So we use those points to really like heavily influence the organ systems.
So if you wanted to just lightly influence one, you'd do it to like maybe the points that are closer to the center. Is that how it
That's
goes?
interesting. I guess I guess not necessarily, but like each point definitely serves a purpose.
Mhm.
Um, Even the ones that are closer to the middle.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the ones that are like on the end, they just have like very specific functions. Like the first or the points that are on your fingertips and your toes, those are all good for clearing heat, no matter what channel they're on.
Mm.
Um, and so like those 5 points on each channel, are basically like they have similar functions across channels. This is getting really
I think I get it. No, I think I do get it, but now I'm wondering, are there more than 5 points?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it sounds like there's a lot of points.
There are over like 365 points that are on channels, and then we also have extra points which are not on channels. Um,
Dang.
yeah, so there's probably close to like over 400 points on your body. Um, and like the longest channel is the urinary bladder channel, and that has 67 points on it.
Dang, that's a lot.
It's a lot. But then you have a channel like the heart channel, which has 9 points on it. So it just depends on the organ, it depends on the channel, and then each point on the channel has a specific function. So like I was saying earlier, like if we wanted to nourish the kidneys, we would use kidney 3, which is located at your ankle, the inside of your ankle, because that is what we call the source point for the kidneys. So that's like a direct communication line straight to the kidneys. Um, so it's a really like influential point. But then there are other points on the kidney channel that are, just good for like water metabolism, because kidneys are really heavily involved in water metabolism. So there are other points that are just purely like, okay, um, I want to increase water metabolism. I can use this point, or I want to drain extra water from the body via the urine. Like I can promote urination to help get rid of some extra water. So for
Mm.
people like who have edema or things like that have water and metabolism issues, we can use points that specifically target that.
Mm. Okay, I think I get most of
Yeah.
it. I think I
Sorry,
get
I feel
most.
like
It
I'm sort
honestly,
of
it's like it makes me honestly just more curious to learn more about it, because it just is, I'm learning about intricacies I just haven't really considered before. Like,
totally. And
so
that's like, yeah, that's the really fascinating thing about Chinese medicine is like it is so involved. Like,
yeah,
we go to school for either 4 or 6 years and we just scratch the surface. A lot of
yeah,
the learning comes afterwards. And to be honest with you, most of the learning comes in clinic, like
yeah.
when you're actually treating patients and you're seeing things in real life. Um, that's where it all kind of comes together. And so it's like, yeah, we can have these like esoteric conversations about acupuncture points and the theory, and we can study texts all day long, and there's so much to learn, and it's so overwhelming, and
Yeah.
things. But then, you get into practice, and it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I get it, like,
Yeah.
so
And probably like once you see someone heal from something else, it probably like, it just starts to like kind of click and stuff.
totally. And you become the ancient Chinese person that lived 2,000 years ago and like are
Yeah.
observing things, and you're like, okay, I understand why they did that.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because it has like kind of like the historical connection too. I want to talk about how some of that connects with like your mind and spirit. Like, I don't know how to explain that. Like, because I think acupuncture has helped with my anxiety, but I wouldn't really know how that would work.
Okay,
And yeah.
totally, totally. So, um, so just as I said, as like each organ, there it has an element, a taste, a sound, or whatever. They all have an emotion as well.
Mm.
Yeah, so the heart is sort of the governor of all of the emotions, but it delegates emotions out to other organ systems as well. So anger is the liver, joy is the heart, um, like sort of like a worry, pensiveness is the digestive system. Grief is the lungs, and then kidneys are fear.
Mm.
And um, so when we look at treating sort of like emotional things, we can look to those systems and those correlations, but we really mostly a lot of the times are treating the heart, especially in the case of anxiety.
Mm.
Anxiety is a great example of what I was talking about earlier with like that heart fire.
Hmm.
Um, because think about anxiety. It makes you, like
Like sweaty and stuff,
sweaty.
warm.
Yeah, and sweat is the fluid of the heart, and like, sometimes it can make you like jittery or,
Hmm.
just a lot of mind racing things, things that are very fast, a lot of fire qualities.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really interesting. How would you say someone who struggles with like anger or something would then have like liver issues
yeah,
too?
yeah, a liver imbalance, for sure. But it can, again, it's like an interplay between all of these things. So
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
look at things in a holistic point of view and how they influence one another. But yes, anger, a lot of like, people with like, okay, this is a great example actually. You think about someone being in LA, you think about traffic, right?
Hmm.
And when you're sitting in traffic, you're stuck in one place, you can't move, which is already a liver thing. We talked about the liver wanting to move freely
And
and
like, yeah.
itself, and if it gets stagnant, it gets angry and irritable. And so you can think of like the person who has road rage and they're just sitting in traffic being like, "Oh my god, I hate this." Like, and then they get home and they're all angry, and like that's classic liver.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. Okay, I think you explained that really well as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to hear about some of like the changes you've seen happen in your practice or like within yourself or within like clients. Like maybe just like an example of something that you saw that, I don't know,
Yeah,
made you
totally.
feel like something.
Oh, there are so many cool things. Let's see. I I don't know why this one stands out to me, but maybe it's just because of my relationship with the patient. But she had like a whole host of things going on. She had a lot of autoimmune conditions. So she had fibromyalgia, uh, lupus, and gosh, there was another one that I am now blanking on. It's been a while since I've seen her. But she was coming in and it got to the point where she couldn't work anymore. She was on disability because she could barely get out of bed. Um, and she was seeing a doctor and they were doing the best that they could, but it wasn't really helping. And so she started to come get acupuncture because she was sort of at her wits' end. That's, it's very common. A lot of
Yeah.
people are just like, I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to do acupuncture. Um, which I hope that changes a little bit. Like, I hope we
I
start to
think it
become
is.
the first. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it can be really helpful and it's frustrating for people to feel like they've exhausted all their options, like that can feed
Yeah.
into the illness itself, which is just
Yeah.
so, yeah,
That alone is
um,
very defeating. Yeah, I agree.
very defeating. Yeah. So anyway, so she started coming in and we were working, initially we were just working on her energy and then we started to work on her chronic pain and, as things got better and improved, we started working on other things that weren't even related to her autoimmune conditions. And it was just like, she turned to me one day and she was just like, the only reason I can get out of bed every day is because of what we do in this treatment room. And I was
Wow.
just like, yeah, I mean, it was like the biggest moment of just like gratitude and honor and just, like it felt so incredible to be part of someone's healing journey and witness the transformation that can occur because as a practitioner, like I'm only part of it, like
Mhm.
most of what's going on is the patient's body doing it, and that's really one of the beautiful things about acupuncture is it's like we're just gently nudging, like we're not intervening, we're not like drastically changing. All we're doing is nudging the body back into homeostasis, which it knows how to do. We have
Yeah.
this like crazy wisdom within all of us where our bodies know how to breathe every day. They know how to extract nutrients from our food. They know how to pump our heart, like
Yeah.
our bodies do incredible things every day.
So many things.
And when we can just have a little bit of the support that we need in order to like get our bodies back on track when they've sort of fallen off. Um, it's just like really incredible to watch and very humbling and awesome to do that like with another human being. Like to be part of that journey is just
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Giving someone the power to like get out of bed. Like, something that we take for granted, but that's like a major thing.
Yeah.
That's
Huge.
really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your daily practices and yeah, what do you do to work and feel completely optimized?
Yeah. So important. For me, I really like to keep things simple. Like I don't like to do a ton of things. We are all busy and we, would like to take more time than we probably can for our health and our daily things, but sometimes it's just not realistic.
Hmm.
And so I like to keep it really simple. And there's an incredible doctor who I am so inspired by and love, and his name is Dr. Zach Bush. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm
him.
not. I'll write it down though.
Follow him on Instagram. Like he's incredible. But I was listening to a podcast that he was a guest on where he talked about. He said it so beautifully. He said, "All we are as human beings, like as life forms, are soil, water, and air." Animated by a biophotonic light source, which is the sun. Like
Mm.
he's like that is the best description of human life that I have been able to come up with after X amount of years in practice. And it just really resonated with me and it struck me and I thought it was so beautiful. And so my daily practices really have become sort of just about nurturing those four things. So like soil, what we put into our bodies, like for
Yeah.
me, it's really important. I go to the farmer's market every week and I'm really conscious about what I'm putting into my body.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, you know, it's not crazy thing. I'm not cooking like these gourmet meals, but I'm
Yeah.
really like connected to my food source. I only, try and eat whole like foods.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, yeah, like thinking about what I put into my body every day, and that includes herbs, that includes teas that I make. I make bone broth. I do all of the healthy things, but to me, it doesn't feel like it feels very manageable because I'm just like, all right, what is this thing that I'm preparing, and is it beneficial to my soil in my body?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then, water, obviously, like drinking filtered water and getting enough of it. Um, and air, going for walks every day. I go for walks
Yeah.
every day, try and get out and breathe the fresh air. In LA, we don't have the best air.
Yeah.
Like getting out into some nature when I can and breathing, like even just like sitting next to a tree, and
Yeah.
feeling like that. And then the sun, just like again, getting into the sun, and I can do that, on my walks, I can tackle two of those things. So yeah, for me, I try to keep it simple. I definitely, experiment a lot with herbs and
Yeah.
teas and stuff like that, but that's just because I'm super into it. And yeah.
Yeah, I would love to talk more about the herbs that if you use any daily,
Yeah.
what those are, and then kind of getting into just some. Let's start with that question, and then I'll ask the next one.
Yeah, totally. So for me, it like changes based on how I'm feeling. I really have been trying to like check in with my body and it's not always easy to be like, all right, body, what do you want? It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I want nettle tea today, but it's kind of like starting that conversation. So it changes and it fluctuates based on how I feel and what I'm craving. But I've really been into I do nettle with hibiscus and horsetail. That's
Mm.
sort of been my go-to.
I haven't heard of horsetail. What is it? What is
It's
it good for?
really, yeah, it's really high in silica,
Mhm.
which is good for hair health,
Okay.
and a bunch of other, it's an important mineral that's important for a lot of other biological processes. But yeah, for me, I just started playing around with that one. But yeah, so it's sort of like that one is kind of like my go-to. I call it like my beauty tonic.
Oh yeah.
It's like nettles and horsetail are really good for hair health, and then hibiscus is high in antioxidants, so it's good, for skin and all that.
Mhm.
And it tastes really good. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. I wanted to, well, what was my next question about herbs? Let's see. Oh, what herbs would you recommend getting started with? So
mm,
right now I have like holy basil.
nice. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh, it's mixed with it's a blend and I have there's spearmint in it.
Ooh,
I don't know what else. I think there's one more thing and it's really good, like really delicious and
yeah,
um
I
yeah.
love.
And then blue vervain I
Oh,
also
I
have, but
haven't played with blue vervain.
it's really nice. It honestly really calms me down. I think it's supposed to be good for your nervous system. But
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, yeah, I enjoy it any time of day and it's like really nice.
Oh, I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah, so which ones do you recommend just kind of have in your toolkit that you kind of turn to sometimes?
so this is sort of a hard question just because like as an acupuncturist, I'm so used to being like everyone's individual. It's not a one size fits all thing. And I guess it kind of depends on what your intention is with it. Like if you're just,
Mm,
wanting to play around with different herbs and, having a cabinet that you can experiment with, like there's so many great ones, but for for me as an acupuncturist, like herbs are very medicinal and
mm,
have a purpose.
mm-hmm.
And so it's really about like whatever it is you're trying to
Alleviate.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Mm,
if it's for stress, like XYZ, but then also
yeah.
stress can be, have a root in so many other, like there can be so many reasons for stress, and so many different approaches of what herbs to take for it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess like if you are wanting to get into herbs for like more medicinal purposes and like actually using it to heal things and treat
Mhm.
things, then I think you probably need to work with either an acupuncturist, an herbalist, or someone who has a basic understanding of like how to diagnose.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, but for just like playing around, I mean, like I don't know, there are so many great ones like chamomile, like all of the really like nice one, like the flowery ones that are
Yeah.
good for anyone, those are really good. There are so many Chinese herbs that are like I had never heard of until I studied acupuncture and herbal medicine, because like Western herbology and Chinese herbology, there are some overlaps, but they for the most part have separate like pharmacologies. So, uh,
So might be a little, I mean, this is going back a little, but how much herbs do you use in your practice? Like, do you often like is that like like a big part of most people's
yeah,
healing? Yeah.
if I think it's beneficial for a patient, I will totally recommend herbs, and then it's up to them, whether or not they
To
want,
take.
yeah, whether they want to take them or not. But um, herbs are a really great way. I sort of view them as a way to take your treatment home with you.
Mm,
Because if you're coming in for acupuncture, you're coming in once, ideally twice a week, but then you're at home, for the other 5 days a week. And so herbs are a really great way to sort of like get a treatment every day. But yeah, so I use herbs a lot, and the other like difference with Chinese herbs is that they're always part of a formulation. So we never use a single herb on its own.
oh, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, so a formula can have anywhere from like 3 to 12 herbs in it, and they all work synergistically with each other. So they're like really beautiful formulas because
Hmm.
they play the herbs in a formula have been so thoughtfully chosen.
Chosen, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so that's like when I use herbs, that's how I use herbs in the
Mm,
clinic is with herbal formulations that are really targeted for a specific diagnosis and very customizable. because another beautiful thing about the herbal formulas is you can buy the herbal formulas already mixed, like as is, or you can customize a formula for a specific patient.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Cool. I feel like well, that was actually really helpful because it kind of makes me think about it a little more intentionally. Let's talk about herbs for anxiety. I'm like helping myself while I can. And I want to talk about insomnia a little bit too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
With some heart stuff. Um,
Uh-huh.
so you see an acupuncturist?
I did see an acupuncturist. Yeah.
Did you ever take an herbal formula from them?
No.
Okay.
But we did cupping and acupuncture during my sessions.
Cool. Yeah, so okay, so herbs for insomnia and anxiety.
Both aren't for me though. Insomnia is more for my mom. Just trying to see how to help her.
Totally. Well, so okay, so this is where it gets like interesting too, right? So insomnia can be due to like excess heat or not enough what we call yin. So another like very basic foundational concept of Chinese medicine is yin and yang, which most people have heard of and are familiar with. But yin, you know, is like the cold, dark, solid matter, cooling, nighttime, like all of those type feminine, those types of qualities. Whereas yang is like masculine, energy, movement, brightness, heat, like, you know, that those types of energies. And each organ system has a yin and a yang.
Okay.
So insomnia, for example, like it can be too much heat, or it can be not enough yin, not enough of the cooling aspect. So relatively speaking, you have heat, but the root is not the heat. The root is the lack of yin.
Okay, cool.
And so
what is that though? Like, what would that be in like, I guess in like physical, or what would that manifest as? Like, what would manifest as not having enough cold? What would would I consume like cold property foods and stuff, or?
Yeah. So you're totally on to the right track. So, okay. So one of the easiest ways to understand yin deficiency, so like not having enough yin, is women going through menopause. So as their estrogen starts, so estrogen is like a very yin hormone. As their estrogen starts to decline, they start to have like an excess of heat. So you can think of hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, you know, like all of those things are yin deficiency or can be yin deficiency. So it doesn't like super well translate to Western medical terms, but the way that we treat like a yin deficiency type of insomnia is very different than the way we treat an excess heat type of insomnia.
I see.
We would use herbs that would nourish yin. And like I can rattle off a bunch, but I only know the Chinese name of them, so it's not gonna make
That's okay.
Like, the one downfall is they don't teach us like the common name for any of these. It's only the Chinese names. But yeah, so you would want to do like yin supporting things. So gosh, like what that's like a really hard to translate thing.
That's okay. Don't worry. Did you have to learn some Chinese for this?
Yeah, I definitely cannot speak Chinese, but all of the herbs are in Chinese, which makes it really hard to learn initially.
Yeah.
But we learn what's called pinyin, which is like the Chinese name spelled out in the English alphabet. So I don't have to like know the character.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we did take like a Chinese medical language course where we actually did have to learn some characters.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's so cool. All of it is so fascinating. Okay, thank you for helping me with some of the herb questions. I appreciate that.
I feel like I couldn't like give you the specifics that I want to, but it's only because there's like so many different things that like
That's okay. Don't worry about it at all. Honestly, like all of this is very fascinating to me and I find it all like super valuable. So I just appreciate what you do bring. So thank you. I'm curious, what are some books or resources like that you'd recommend if anyone is starting to get into like alternative medicine or holistic practices?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so books, let's see. For acupuncture and Chinese medicine specifically, there are a couple really good books. One of them is called The Spark and the Machine. I don't remember who wrote it, but
That's okay. I'll put them all down in the
okay,
notes. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that one, it's written by a MD who's also an acupuncturist, and he does a really cool job of explaining some of these like Chinese medicine concepts in Western terms. So
Mm,
I think it's probably a really good book for people who have no real experience with Chinese medicine, because you can start to like approach it from a Western perspective.
mm,
Um, Another one that I haven't read, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, is called Between Heaven and Earth.
mm.
And that one was also written for people who don't already have a foundation in Chinese medicine.
Okay.
So that's a good place to start. And then there's like a really famous book called The Web That Has No Weaver.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I guess it's like only famous in the
Okay.
acupuncture.
It's okay.
But yeah, that's sort of like a go-to as well. And then other resources, like I would say honestly, like one of the great things about social media and the internet now is like having access, like direct access to acupuncturists and nutritionists and whatever modality it is that you're interested in learning more about, like just reaching out to them. Like I love when people ask me questions on Instagram, and I'm always more than happy to answer any types of questions. So yeah, like finding someone on social media who you like and who you connect with, and just like kind of picking their brain if they'll let you.
Yeah. I mean that's how we got
Yeah,
connected.
totally.
Which I'm all for it. I think using social media as a collaborative space and a space to educate yourself and connect with other people, it's like using it for what it's truly meant for, and
Yeah,
it could be so powerful if you use it in the right way.
yeah, so powerful.
Um, well, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
My last question is, where can our listeners find you at?
ooh, yes. Um, Instagram is probably the best for me. It's at resonant.healing. And then I also have a website, resonant-healing.com. And my email's on there as well. So yeah, I love hearing from everyone, questions, like comments, anything. Like you can find me on Instagram.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla.